Good morning, everybody. Welcome to July. I can't believe it's July 4th was just the other day. It can't be here already.
Guess what? It's here and it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, that's behind us. But it's been like an extended weekend for a lot of people,
Yes,
so I hope everybody's taking time out and enjoying themselves.
That's right. Hope you had a safe and happy 4th. So, well, it's summertime, and summer is full of color in the garden. You may not think as much as spring, but there's a lot of color out there.
There is. I was thinking as I was driving in, of course, everything's just so lush and green right now. You don't see a whole lot of flowers, a lot of color exploding out there. But as you could see in our set when we were coming in, there's plenty of things that are providing colors and blooms. So we're going to talk primarily, well, almost exclusively about trees and shrubs and how we can use those to add color to the summer garden. And then later in the program, we'll be taking your phone calls.
Absolutely. Before we get started, a couple of quick announcements. This is the time of year at Merrifield Garden Center that a lot of people look forward to. It's our annual tent sale. So if you are a bargain hunter, this is the place for you. It's a lot of fun, actually. We've got the big top up at all three stores. Well, at two of the stores. I think at Gainesville they may be doing some inside and some in the greenhouse, but lots of great gardening accessories, decorating supplies, some plants, statuary, Christmas items, ribbon, just
I added a few bird baths to it yesterday.
All right, yeah. But lots of great deals for you. So 50 to 85% off. You know, odds and ends. There's one of this or one of that, or a couple of this, a couple of that. But it's a lot of fun. So that has begun at all three stores. They're just now getting everything out, and we'll be adding things constantly. So come by often to see what has been added.
Exactly. You just don't know what you'll find unless you go there. Because I know, like I said, I put some bird baths out there. They're in perfectly good condition. Like, you know, they are new. They're brand new. But they just haven't sold. They weren't the most popular colors or something. So we put them out there just to make room for some new inventory.
That's great. So check it out, because and check it out a lot, because it changes daily. So also want to let you know, kind of a save the date for you for Sunday, July 14th, next Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. at our Fair Oaks location. Our friends at the Arlington Rose Foundation are having a summer care clinic for roses and social hour too. So if you've got any questions, if you want to just learn some great information about taking care of your roses, stop by that. And that's all I have for announcements.
All right, well, let's get right to work then.
Okay.
And I want to begin. They say later in the show we're going to be talking about flowers and color and beautiful things, but we're going to start out with some of the ugliness.
Oh, okay. So it's short. It's just this segment.
Yeah.
Then we get to the pretty.
We like to mix it up. But really, at the plant clinic, probably what we're seeing more than anything, I probably had at least half a dozen customers in yesterday talking about problems in their lawns, and this is going on my lawn. This is pretty widespread. And what's happened the year, really, we've had something like almost 24 inches of rain.
Oh, it's amazing.
You know, we've really had, up until now, really haven't had any hot weather. Lawns have been looking fantastic, and then just over the last week or two, a lot of people are starting to see these brown spots and patches and showing up, starting to turn a little yellow.
That's a typical summer thing.
Exactly, and so I've got a couple pictures here to show what a lot of us are starting to experience in the lawn. Now you just start to see these irregular shaped patches showing up. Sometimes it can be sort of well defined like you see in the picture here. Sometimes it's just a little bit more diffuse. But basically your lush, beautiful lawn of spring kind of starts heading downhill right about this time of year. Now what we're looking at, this is actually a disease. This is a fungal organism that's called Rhizoctonia solani. It's frequently just referred to as a disease called brown patch. And you'll see these irregular spots, but when you get up real close and personal, and you can see this is even magnified, when you look on the individual leaf blade, you'll see this kind of characteristic or distinctive lesion showing up. And what will happen, this fungal organism gets in there, it causes a leaf spot, it gradually grows, it expands until that entire leaf blade just dies and turns brown. And because the growth of the plant's slowing down, it's not rejuvenating itself as much, and just, you start seeing these little brown patches show up. Now sometimes, not often, but sometimes if you're out early in the morning, you'll actually see this mycelium, this white cottony growth that is the actual fungal organism that's emerging out of the leaf tissue. And that's how it spreads. This mycelium then kind of branches out, comes in contact with healthy grass blade, and these patches just continue to enlarge and expand. Now, the reason you're seeing them now is really because of the temperature and the moisture that we've had recently. We say it's been raining all spring, but what changed was now we've got the warm temperature along with the moisture. So there's an idea or a concept that we call the disease triangle. You think of plant pathogens as sort of a three-legged stool. There's three different components that need to come together to actually create a disease outbreak. And this is different. It's a different profile for every pathogen that we talk about. So in this case, those three legs to the stool is, one is you need to have the grass that's there. And of course the turf is there. Tall fescue, which is what most of us grow, is what's most susceptible. And you've got lots of lush growth that's come in from all this rain that we've had in the spring. The disease organism, this Rhizoctonia, is there. It sits there basically in a resting, sleeping, dormant state, not bothering anybody. But what changes is when we get the warm temperatures, that kind of 80 to 90 degree temperature range, and moist conditions, just like we've been experiencing over the last week or two, when we have these frequent rain showers. And then when you see in our forecast, you know, we're going to have more rain showers coming up. It's moist, it's warm, and then that's when we get into the disease outbreak. So the disease pressures are high right now, and there are things that you can do about this. First of all, I'd like to reassure everybody this is not going to totally demolish and wipe out and destroy your lawn. What a lot of people do, including myself, is they just live with it. I accept that the lawn's not looking its best and I got some patches and spots in there. That's an option. It doesn't go down into the crown or the roots, it just kills the leaf. But a lot of times, and I've had many customers like, oh, the lawn's been looking so good, they put the effort into it, it's so green, and they can't stand to see these spots showing up. You can treat it with either the Infuse or Immunox. See if I can
let's wait a little bit.
get those in the picture. These are both very similar fungicides. They're in the same class of chemistry. They're systemic in their activity. So the thing is, you would go out there, just spray your lawn enough to wet the grass down. It's absorbed through the leaf tissue into the leaf blade, and it will protect your lawn and prevent it from becoming infected. And it will remain effective for about 3 weeks. The other thing I want to say real quickly here, it's important, is you need at least a minimum of 2 hours of dry weather when you apply this. So you need to catch it before the rainstorm, give it enough time to dry, get absorbed into the plant. Once it's absorbed in there, it remains rainproof and effective, like I said, for 2 to 3 weeks.
Great. I want to remind everyone, if you have any questions, you know, this is the time of year you get your pest questions, you get your lawn questions. So we are there at Merrifield Garden Center to help you. So bringing a sample is always helpful, but all three of our stores have wonderful plant specialists ready to help you.
Yeah, and it's nice everybody's got a camera phone or something else. So bring pictures and samples. That's really the best thing.
It's very helpful. So we're going to take a quick break and come back with some beautiful color from trees and shrubs. Welcome back. We are ready to talk about color. It's a beautiful time of the year.
Like I say,
there
you
you
see
go.
on there.
Color,
we brought
color
lots
everywhere.
of summer color down with us. Yeah, of course, you know, the springtime when you've got all the dogwoods and the red buds and the serviceberry and everything flowering, you know, that's a brilliant time of year. But there's a lot of trees and shrubs that you can include in your landscape that will add color as we go from July through August, and that's what we're really kind of paying attention to today. So, of course, I have to start with the obvious one, which would be crepe myrtles. And crepe myrtles, they're used so widely and so extensively in our landscape because they're just such phenomenal plants. I mean, they're so versatile, so many different shapes, sizes, forms, colors. You know, they're durable, they're reliable. You know, it's no wonder that they're used widely. So this is an example where I think it's used as a specimen tree. I think it's a fantastic application with, of course, and with the vinca under there picking up that color combination that's there. Now this is sort of the natural growth form of most crepe myrtles. They do tend to grow as a multi-stem, large shrub, small tree, so got nice form to it, and like I say, can make a fantastic specimen plant, just creating that focal point like we see there. And of course that picture was taken down at American University, and I have to put a little plug. We've got our annual field day coming up, so if you're interested in attending that, then you can search there. I'm sure it's listed on the American University site or on the, it's called, what is it, Green Industry DC is the website for that also. A little plug for them. But so that's crepe myrtle used as a specimen. Crepe myrtle can also be grouped together and make a nice mass display that we see here. This is an entrance planting not far from where I live. And in this case, they've essentially taken the same plant, but what they do is they went in, they pruned it back, they cut it very aggressively to keep the plants kind of in a uniform size, uniform shape, the prolific flowering that's in there. So it's really used almost more in a shrub form. Again, just good reasons to be using crepe myrtle. Now crepe myrtles, they do need full sun. I keep them how versatile and easy they are. They need at least 5 or 6 hours minimum of sun to really get good flowering out, and that's the only thing that they require from you. Now they've developed so many varieties. This next one we're looking at is a shrub form that's called Pocomoke. You can see a mature one there. It's probably about 3.5 foot tall, 3.5 foot wide, and that dense kind of bushy shape. So again, you can use these in any number of different applications. The next picture shows where you've taken a crepe myrtle and pruned it into a standard form, where instead of allowing it to develop in that multi-stem, the growers have trained it and developed it into this one central stem into more of a small tree. And I couldn't help but notice as I was coming in the studio right down here in Roslyn, they did a streetscape planting where they've used crepe myrtles and this pruning technique to develop in the same way. So again, the versatility that's there is fantastic, long bloom season. And I also just threw in a winter picture to let everybody know and remind them, hey, these are plants that also give interest even in the winter time. So I sing all the praises of crepe myrtles. Like I said, as long as you get them out there in the sun, nice sunny place, they're going to perform for you. They're extremely heat and drought tolerant once they get established.
Right.
Any new tree, any new planting, you have to pay attention to the watering. And right now we have a tremendous selection because people like to pick them out when they're in bloom. So it's a great time, even though we're talking about 90 degrees, it's a great time to go out there and select them. They're flowering, you get your pick your colors, right, and the forms are out there, plant them. The plants are fine, they love it out there, but you are responsible for paying attention to watering. We ask that you check on them at least once every 5 or 6 days, you know.
And you can't just set a time and say, I'm going to water it every Tuesday,
nope,
or that type of, you just can't do that.
Impossible to give you a watering schedule. We're just going to say check on them at least every 5 days, you know, depending on size, and you got to check the soil and see if they need water.
Right. And we do have brochures at all 3 Merrifield Garden Center locations on watering, on planting, so be sure if you don't, you know, get one of those to ask for one.
But that's all they ask from you.
That's right.
That's it. That they just ask them one little thing, just to pay attention to the watering, and then they'll reward you with these beautiful colors. To give you an idea, again, just the colors, I put a couple slides in here super quick, like pink velour, it's in there. I love that one. It's got a little bit of that burgundy color in the leaf. There's been a lot of effort going into trying to find a true red. This red rocket that was developed out at Oklahoma State is probably the closest one that you'll find to a true red color. There's ones that I'm showing like here, Catawba.
There we go.
You know, that one's National Arboretum introduction. Burgundy cotton is one of the more recent ones. Again, that came out of Oklahoma. Again, I like because it's got sort of the pinkish white flower, that deep colored leaf that's in there. It's just many, many varieties go through. And I brought one in today that's even a new introduction that's called Coral Magic.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and again, what I like about this is you've got the nice coral colored flower, but again, that deep reddish burgundy kind of foliage that it contrasts off of. So I was looking around the internet, and one of them just listed 78 different varieties of crepe myrtle. So it's crazy. Like I said, anywhere from little shrubs to large trees, colors. Just come in, look through them all, take whatever fits your landscape.
That's great.
Now, one more?
You got a couple more pictures to show us.
Okay, and So this has a crepe myrtle, but I'm using as kind of my transition slide. That's one in the background called a coma, but in front of it, with that kind of grayish, puffy flower, that's a smoke tree.
They look so cool this time of year, especially from the distance. That's when I really notice it.
Yeah, so smoke tree, they've actually, technically, they finished blooming, but after they're done blooming, they develop these kind of little puffs of smoke is the only way we can describe it. It's a sort of a remnant of the seed pod that's there. So this is one that's called Royal Burgundy. So again, you can get some leaf color as well as little variations in the flower color. To me, it's such a distinctive plant. There's nothing else like it in the landscape. So it's really best used as a specimen. You got to kind of find the right place, you know, where it makes that focal point in your garden. Again, heat and drought tolerant, loves the summertime, just put in a nice sunny location.
Great. We're going to take a quick break. We've got more ideas for you when we return. We're talking summer color in trees and shrubs today, and we've talked about crepe myrtle, which is the king or queen of the garden in the summertime. I mean, they're just spectacular, but there's so many more to choose from.
Oh, there really are, and I wanted to show a plant to begin with here, one that's probably it's not used that extensively, but I think it's something that probably merits more attention. This is one that's called a vitex. To me, vitex serves a lot of the same purpose in the landscape as a crepe myrtle does. Has a lot of the same kind of growth habit, growth characteristics.
Right. I think we've got a picture there to show.
The thing with vitex, though, is it's not, you don't have the big range of colors.
Right.
You kind of have either sort of this purplish violet, or you have white. So I brought pictures
There's
of that if we can go to the slides. So what happens now, I have to tell you, vitex was never, you know, for a long time, this was not really high on my list of plants. Now, part of that is because it can really get kind of big and it can get unruly, but my feelings have changed about with this over time, because I've started to see how people, when you go in and you use a little bit of discretion with the pruning, you know, and you kind of develop this kind of open, airy form.
Right.
See, to me, that starts looking an awful lot like a crepe myrtle does as far as its overall shape and form and size. So it's kind of a neat effect that you can get with this. Now, the vitex is not blooming yet. They usually don't start flowering until we get in almost till August, but again, we're talking about these kind of summer blooms. Again, it's tough. It's durable. Like I said, this is the most common color it's there. There is also a white flowered form. You can adjust the size and shape of this plant dramatically by pruning. Some people will cut it back very aggressively close to the ground and use it in a low border. You can just kind of let it grow and it gets quite large, you know, 10, 12 feet tall and 10 or 12 feet wide. Or you can see here kind of an intermediate size where they've done some pruning and kept it there about 6 to 8 feet. So just like we talking about, the crepe myrtle has a versatility, this vitex has that as well. And it's a great attractor for butterflies and bees and pollinators also. Kind of interesting, it's always been in the verbena family, but now they've moved it to the mint family, again, as they start looking at those stuff. How that fits in the mint family, I don't get it, but that's what the scientists are coming up with. So that's vitex, or its common name is called chase tree. Let's see, other ones that we need to look at, of course, would be butterfly bush.
Absolutely.
Butterfly bush, you can see it gets its name because the butterflies just love it. This is a spice bush swallowtail, or no, it's a pipevine swallowtail. I was given the wrong one. Pipevine swallowtail against a native butterfly. You don't see them too often because the larvae feed very specifically on the pipevine, but when you do encounter, it's a beautiful butterfly. But you'll get everything, you know, all kinds of skippers and swallowtails, and you know, every butterfly that's out there goes to this because they're so prolific in their flowering. They're fragrant, produce good nectar that's out there. So you're looking at one there that I think is called Pink Delight, which is a very nice one.
I think we have one more picture here.
Got another picture which really shows the hummingbird moth attracted to it. So great color, great attractor for the butterflies. Now, I brought a couple of the actual plants in because I wanted everybody to see the butterflies, because that's really the best selling point, but we're talking about the plants. So I brought a couple into the studio here today. We can take a look at those. one that I have, let's see if we get, yeah, right
these
down
right
here
down
in
over
front
here.
of
We
me.
can get
This
the
one has
camera
sort
on
of this, I don't know, what color would you call it? Magenta?
well, I was going to say, or a deep burgundy.
I think
maybe,
sangria is another
ooh,
color
I
they
like
use
that
for it
term.
or something.
Yeah.
But that's a variety that's called Miss Molly.
Miss Molly must like that color.
Yeah. But this is a nice one. It's prolific in its blooms. You can see it's got fantastic color that goes on there, nice fragrance. And what will happen is the butterfly bush or buddleia, they tend to get sort of big and rangy. So a lot of the developers and breeders are looking to get more dense and more compact. So Miss Molly's going to stay down there at about 4 or 5 foot tall and wide, so it's a little easier to manage. And right next to it is one that's called White Ball, which again is given its name, that white ball, because it stays so dense and compact and profuse in its flowering.
Right. Can we get
and nice
that
fragrance that's in
picture
there.
of that white one as well?
The one thing I'm going to say with buddleia, when they're finished blooming, it's good to go in and deadhead them, cut the old spent flowers off. That gets them to repeat flower, and it also prevents them from reseeding.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
So those are pretty fantastic.
Nice to see butterflies in the landscape too.
Yeah, and they'll give you flower, like I said, all summer color, which is really our theme.
Right.
Now the couple others, I brought a couple pictures in if we want to go to that.
Okay.
This is sort of the Rose of Sharon, or Althea, which again is kind of an old-fashioned plant. It's been around forever. Tough, durable, indestructible. You can definitely find a place for it in your landscape. But just over the last several years, a lot of breeding is done. This is a double-flowered form that you can see, and it's also been pruned up on a standard. So it makes a nice small tree. Even though it's traditionally grown as a large shrub, if you have a townhouse or a small property, you could take something like this, buy one in a standard form, and that would be a nice flowering tree. It's going to repeat bloom for you all summer long.
Oh, that's perfect.
And again, these come in every color imaginable. You can see sort of a nice pink that's there. I think the next picture shows a single blossom, which is is pink, and it's got that deep ruby red throat in there. Again, the pollinators, the butterflies and the bees love this plant to death. There's also white flowers. There's almost the closest thing to a true blue that you can get is with this. So you get ones like Bluebird or Blue Chiffon, which is almost a true blue color. They're in peak flower right now, so again, you come in the garden center, you check them out, take a look at those. So really, they don't require much care. The only thing is some of them, the seeds will resprout, and that can be a little bit of a nuisance keeping those weeded out.
Now, you brought one more plant in today that you weren't expecting to bring.
No, this was just one of those
cool.
irresistible things. As I was walking around the garden center loading up my car to bring plants into the studio, I found this trumpet vine right here. So this trumpet vine, a lot of you are familiar with trumpet vine. We have a native trumpet vine, which is blooming right now, and it's got sort of yellow or orange flowers in it.
We're getting the shot.
This one that we brought in today, you can see the similarity in the flower color, but the flower itself is probably 3 or 4 times larger than what we see in our native one. So this is a trumpet vine, but it's native to China. Just like our native one, it's extremely aggressive in its growth. You can expect this thing to grow rampantly, 20, 25, 30 feet tall and wide. So you want to plant it where it's got good room to stretch out and grow, unimpeded. It does also respond well to pruning, so we planted a couple of them in planter boxes at the garden center last year, and all we're doing is we're just kind of getting aggressive in the pruning to keep it in size. But what a great plant to provide
gorgeous.
Beautiful tropical, what Merrill Berman, one of my colleagues, was calling neon peachy color. Great to attract hummingbirds. Plus, really something different that nobody else will have.
Absolutely. All right, time for another break, so we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Summer color everywhere.
Yep, I tell you, said 90, 95 degrees. Nice day to be sitting out poolside.
That's right, looking at the beautiful flowers.
Right, exactly. So I thought, hey, these are some nice things you could plant around your pool so you really make the most of the summer season.
There you go.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch back now and go back to look at a couple trees.
Good.
We've been kind of in the shrub department. There's no rhyme or reason to this, just sort of bouncing around. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the golden rain tree. Golden rain tree, they're still in bloom right now, but really they're past their prime. These were in peak full bloom about 2 weeks ago, and right now a lot, few flowers are still sticking around, but they're starting to shed off of there. This is obviously, you can see this is about as big as they get. This is a large, mature specimen. I'd say that's, topping out right at about 30 foot tall and 30 foot wide. You don't often see them this large, so I thought that was a really nice example. And you can see, just that brilliant golden color that comes out at a time of year, sort of end of June, first part of July, when there's not a lot else going on as far as flowering trees go.
Right, and so, maybe, I was going to say, it's a little hard to see it on that picture, but here you've got a close-up.
Yeah, but I'd like everybody to get an idea of the overall shape and form of the tree. Now what happens, you see that in the background, the close-up of what the blossom looks like, clusters of little small yellow flowers. But when they're finished blooming, they'll develop this kind of interesting looking seed pod. If you were out right now, most of them are developing that seed pod, but it's just a light green today, and it's going to mature to sort of a dark brown. But then one of the things that happens, and I say this kind of in the realm of fair warning, all the seeds that are produced in there drop to the ground, and all of them want to sprout.
Oh, yes.
So this tree, it can become a little bit of a nuisance. Quite honestly, it's not something I would necessarily plant out in the front lawn, because all those seeds sprout, and then it's creating a weed problem or maintenance issue from that perspective. But where I think this can be extremely useful, I think it's fantastic as a parking lot tree, for example. I've seen them in parking lot islands or traffic circles and things like that, because again, they're durable. They'll take the heat, and they take the sun. They don't have any really pest problems to speak of, and in that environment, it's sort of a contained, confined place, so you don't have the maintenance of trying to keep all those seeds and everything picked up underneath it. So again, if you're around your swimming pool, or if you got a situation where you're not trying to grow a garden or lawn necessarily, and it can be an excellent choice, or in a lower maintenance area where you don't care if some of the seedlings sprout. So tough, durable, summer color, nice kind of medium-sized tree for that use. Okay. All right, what do we have next?
Sourwood?
Okay, yeah, now this is a phenomenal native tree. Took this picture when I was traveling around about 2 weeks ago. And as you can see, the flowers had not quite fully expanded. They're fully open right now, so July is the bloom season on it. Now this is, interestingly enough, it's in the same family as blueberries, azaleas, rhododendrons. And it's a little hard to tell because those flowers haven't opened up yet, but the blossom on that looks just like a blueberry flower does. And they're slightly fragrant. You really kind of have to stick your nose in there to smell it. But again, it's fantastic for the pollinators. Anybody that enjoys honey knows about sourwood honey, which has that dark color and distinctive flavor. So I mean, that's probably where it's best known. But it can be a nice ornamental tree. It's slow growing. The big tree there, and again, I took that picture because it's such a specimen. It's going to take quite a few years to get that size, and they can get bigger, but it's a tree that you have to have patience with. But I think that's true of most native trees. So you get summer blooms, kind of a nice green leaf on there, but where it gets its most attention is this will go a brilliant red early in the fall. So it's one of our first to give us that fall color that's out there. So,
and you took this picture down in southwestern Virginia?
That was just outside of Lexington. I was on my bike trip.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but they grow throughout Virginia. And like I say, it's not often used as a landscape tree because everybody wants more immediate gratification. But there's a lot more interest now in natives, and we do have some native plants that can provide that summer color, and sourwood's certainly one of them. Okay. Now another one, talking about sort of Virginia native plants and Virginia, Maryland native plants, this is the bottlebrush buckeye. It does naturally grow throughout the southeastern United States. It's one of the few plants that will give you color and partial shade. So you can see here where we're just getting a little bit of sunlight, dappled sunlight going on there, and there we go in full bloom. It can get quite large. You can see, 8 feet tall, 8 feet wide. It does tend to like sort of moist environments. So this one's from Lewis Ginter Botanical Gardens outside of Richmond. One of the best uses I've seen of the plant, where it's nestled in there right next to the little fish pond. And then you've got a close-up of the blooms that was taken off a plant that was down at the Horticulture Gardens in Blacksburg. I like to give plugs to all these public gardens.
I was just about to say, I wish people would, I hope they take advantage of these gardens because they are just spectacular.
Oh, they do. Whenever I'm traveling, I'm always checking out where the local botanical gardens are.
We went to one in Portland last summer, and it was great.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, I was at the Butterfly Garden in Roanoke. That was new just a couple weeks ago, so that's always a part of my summer vacation trips too. But that bottlebrush buckeye, again, is a great native plant if you want to provide that, again, that naturalized look in the white flowers. Another one that we're going to take a look at here in our next picture about the smooth hydrangea. I like that name, smooth hydrangea. Now, nobody actually uses that name. This is a variety called Annabelle, and it's so popular, everybody just knows it as Annabelle hydrangea. But Annabelle is actually a selection or a cultivar of our native hydrangea. Of course, hydrangea is Greek, I think, for water vessel, which implies, as it does, it likes to be kept pretty consistently moist. It's not the most heat and drought tolerant. So again, when it's in that understory of plants where you get some bright dappled light in there, that's where it's going to really do its best. And in the background behind it, again, is that bottlebrush buckeye. So I thought this was a cool example of where we're taking some native plants, the bottlebrush buckeye and the Annabelle hydrangea, putting them together to add that summer color to a nice landscape. You can't see it, but even further behind it was the southern magnolia, another native.
Got them all.
So yeah, so it's nice to use. Now this is another summer flowering hydrangea. It's not our native one. This is called the panicle hydrangea. Again, there's several varieties of it. I think this is one that's probably called tardiva. They're flowering now, but they're just beginning their bloom, and they'll continue well into August. There's a few different varieties of this one. I've got another picture. It shows a close-up of one that's called Limelight. Limelight's hugely popular because, again, it gets those dense clusters of flowers, and it kind of starts out chartreusey green and goes to white, so you get a little bit of color range. These can be large shrubs. They can also be pruned into the standard forms like we talked about to make small trees. So again, very versatile. And this is one that does need to be out in that bright sunlight.
That's great. Well, David, thank you for bringing all these to our attention. We hope you'll take advantage of some of these new additions to your landscape. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take your phone calls. So if you have any questions, please give us a call, 703-387-1046, and we will be right back. Phone call time. 703-387-1046 is our number here at News Channel 8, so give us a call. David, our first caller is Jean, who's calling from Laurel, Maryland, I believe. Is that you, Jean?
That's me.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Doing great.
Loving the show this morning.
Thank you.
Question about my crepe myrtle. It's about 10 feet tall, and it's a multi-trunk crepe myrtle, but I have a really hollow section in the middle of the tree, hence it's sort of veering one way and veering the other way, so I don't really have anything in the middle. Is there anything I can do about that at this point?
Not necessarily at this point. I think the best time to be pruning crepe myrtle is going to be late winter, sort of, let's say, late February, March, maybe even early April time period. So you can induce some growth in there and get it to fill in, but not right now. It's because as they're going into their flowering season, you would really disrupt the blooming, and just not the time to do it. But let's say we fast forward and we go towards March. Crepe myrtles respond quite well to pruning, so you could go in there using some judgment. Wherever you make a cut, if you cut a branch, it's going to sprout out from that point and produce more branches and more growth.
Okay.
So that's really the only way that you can do anything about that. So for
Should
now,
I let a leader come up in the middle, because I have probably 7 branches, from the bottom. But should I let something grow from the middle or no?
Oh, I would. Yes, okay. Absolutely. Now, to me, I do like to thin out some of those branches. To me, anywhere like 7's a good number, good odd number. So I don't like to let too many grow in there. It just gets really dense. But yeah, if you're missing growth, you could do a little pruning, try to induce some growth come up in the center, and just let that leader develop.
Okay, and then can I top it off
yes,
aggressively
you can.
In March? Okay. great.
Yes, you can do that, but again, let's wait and do it in March.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thanks for the call.
Bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye. Okay, let's see. Our next caller is Iva, who's calling from Silver Spring. Iva, you there?
Yes.
Good
Well,
morning.
good morning.
How are you?
Morning.
Did you have a nice 4th of July?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, good.
I hope you all did too.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
My problem is raspberry. I planted years ago, and they will not. They bloom, but they won't give me anything. I tried everything, nothing. It actually did happen. A lot of flowers, little pimple-like things on top and nothing, but up and underground, way underground.
Okay.
And I can't get rid of it. Across from those, I guess some bird did me a favor and I got some of the orange radish one. What
Okay.
can I do to get
Now-
got rid of the other one?
The raspberry.
You want to get rid of them, or are you just trying to get them to produce fruit?
Well, I'd like to, but I haven't had anything.
Right. Now let me ask, do you get a lot of activity from pollinators when you go out there when they're blooming? Do you see a lot of bees working the flowers?
Yeah, I see not too many bees.
Yeah, because that's what I'm
I just
feeling
found
like.
out I have bees because I got bitten a couple of days ago.
Oh.
Okay, well, you have to be careful, but that's the thing is a lot of times we just don't have our population of pollinators is way low just because of loss of habitat and pesticide use and other stresses that are on them. So I don't know that this is necessarily a plant problem. It's more an issue of just not having enough pollinators to really do the pollination. So to me, I have a couple choices. One is just keep planting more and more flowers to attract more and more pollinators. Things like purple coneflower, which is blooming right now, is a fantastic one. A lot of the plants that we talked about today, from like butterfly bush, I'm trying to think of some of the others, even things like some of the hibiscus, the rose of Sharon, are great for bringing pollinators around. If that's not working for you, another is sometimes on tomatoes, and we have this problem, there's actually a hormone that we can spray on the plants. It's called Bloom Set. You could try that. At the same time, if you're fed up with this and you say, look, it's been years, it's just not producing for me and I want to get rid of it, then I would suggest there's stuff that's called stump and vine killer that you would take and you actually paint it directly onto the plant. You can wound the stem and paint it right on the stem, or take a poison ivy killer and spray it onto the leaves. That will essentially kill the vines, and then you can dig them up.
The thing is that right across about 10 feet there is other ones that are growing, and they do produce fruits.
Yeah. Well, another, I was just thinking while you were answering. Now, there's some newer varieties out. What most people are growing right now is a variety that's called Heritage. So maybe you just want to replace a newer variety that would be more reliable and easier to manage.
That's probably what I do. I have also one question to ask you. I have a tree that were cut down and I have a lot of dust. I'm rebuilding my strawberry bed.
Right.
And I put that on it as
Yes.
a
Now,
mulch or something.
has it had any time to age? Is it fresh, or has it been sitting there for a while?
Well, no, it's just about a month.
Okay. You can use it. Normally, we like to let it age even as much as 6 months. But really, even if it's a month old, I would say yes, you could use that as a mulch.
All right.
Okay. Well, you have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Thanks for
Bye-bye.
calling. Bye-bye.
Okay, let's see. Marie is calling from Gainesville, I believe. Hi, Marie.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Great. I have a question regarding the lawn. We have a lot of brown spots on our lawn. What does that cause from?
That's a disease that we talked about in the first section of the show. Marie, you got to get up a little bit earlier.
Yes, I do.
But it's we're seeing this disease. It's called brown patch, and it's showing up everywhere. And quite honestly, right now, I was just listening to the weather forecast, where they're talking about, 30% chance of rain, 40, 50, 60%. There's this chance of showers, rain showers in their forecast for the next several days. And when it's warm outside and when it's wet, that's when all these molds and fungi start growing. So you can treat it preventatively. I'll show you, we brought 2 different fungicides in that you can use for that. Either the Immunox or Infuse. You need at least 2 hours of dry weather when you apply these. So you can go out and treat it sometime as soon as possible, but keeping an eye on the weather forecast that it has sufficient time to dry, and that should stop them from showing up.
Do you have any granules, or you have to use spray?
The granules don't work as well. We have them. You can get either of these products in a granular form, but I don't recommend them because they just don't work as effectively.
Okay.
Now these are hose end applicators. They're easy to use. You just attach the end of your hose and wet the grass down, and they will give you better results than the granular.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks, Marie.
Have a
Thanks
great
for the
day.
call.
You too. Thanks. Bye-bye. Going to take a quick break and come back with more of your phone calls. Okay, David, we've got a couple more callers. Let's try to get them in before we have to go. Our first caller is Marcia, who's calling from Frederick. Hi, Marcia.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Doing
and you?
just great.
Good. I just have a quick question. I've had this gorgeous clematis for, I'd say, about 5 years. The thing was enormous. This year, I got maybe 10 blooms, and the vines started turning brown.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a disease. It's called clematis wilt. And we really don't have any kind of control measures. But the good news is it's usually not fatal to the vine. So what you end up doing is essentially just having to cut it back to the ground and rejuvenate it. Most of the time, the vine does regrow from the root system, but there's really no treatments, no sprays or anything like that. So just cut it back to the ground, it will regenerate, and it should be blooming again for you next summer.
Okay, great. Now, when do I cut that back?
Well, is the whole thing kind of brown and dead?
There's one that looks like it's alive, one vine. The rest of them are brown.
Just go ahead and do that this weekend.
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks for the call.
Have a good weekend.
You
too.
too. Bye-bye. Okay, let's see. Al is calling from Fairfax. Hi, Al.
Hello. Good morning. Thank you all.
Good
Enjoy
morning.
your show every morning on Saturdays.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question about spiderwort epimedium. We have it planted a year ago, came up successfully this spring. We have it in deep shade in a woodland garden setting. They're not blooming. The spiderwort is a greenish yellow, has no real good substance. The epimedium is a deeper green, but once again, no blooms. Check the water. On your water meter, it's a 7 to 8 range right now. Any idea what's going on here?
Well, now the epimedium usually has a pretty short bloom season. It comes up in early spring, flowers for a week, maybe 2 at most, and then that's it. It's done for the year. So did you get any flowering at all out of it this spring?
No flowering at all out of either one of them this spring.
Yeah, and how long has it been, how long ago did you plant these?
We planted these a year ago, so they came up successfully this spring.
Okay. The other is on the spiderwort, particularly, does it get any sunlight, like bright dappled light coming through there at all?
No bright dappled light. It's in deep shade under large oaks.
Yeah,
It gets a little bit of morning sun, but not a whole lot.
My guess is it's the lack of sunlight that's sort of holding it back from being able to flower. A lot of times when we talk about shade plants, shade tolerant plants, that's always sort of a relative term. So these plants, they can live in the shade, but to get better flowering out of them, we really need to try to get a little more sunlight to them.
Okay.
Usually, at least with what I do, is with the epimedium, is I just let it grow all through the summer, then probably in late winter. Again, this might be sometime in March. I like to go cut all the old foliage off, and then, hopefully it comes up and blooms. Now the epimedium, that's a little different because it should be able to give you some blooms even without any direct sun on there. So with that one, I'm just going to say maybe consider putting like a blossom booster fertilizer on that. Cut it back to the ground in, let's say, March, and hopefully we'll get some blooms out in April. That's the best we can hope for.
Okay.
But the spiderwort, you know, even if we could get an hour or two of sunlight on it, that should be enough to get it to flower. And they really are past their peak blooming period also. So we're talking about.
I appreciate that. They both bloomed last year, but we have not seen any blooms this year. I may have to move them just so they can get a little more sun.
Yeah,
at least the spiderwort.
Yeah, I agree. That's probably would be a good idea.
I have used the bloom, the potash on them this late spring.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, all these little tricks, they don't amount to anything if it's just not getting enough sunlight, and I think that's probably what's going on. Because I know I've got spiderwort right at my front door. You know, I'm very familiar with plants, one of my favorites, and the thing is always reliable bloomer, but it does get more sun.
Okay.
Thanks, Al. So
Thank
great
you
to
much.
hear from you.
All right,
Take
thank
care.
you.
Okay, we've got Jane who's calling from D.C. You there, Jane?
Yes.
We've got about a minute. Do you have a really quick question?
Real quickly, I planted a hydrangea tree. It's supposed to bloom white and change in the fall to another color. I planted it about 5 or 6 years ago. The first year, we did get some blooms. The next year, 1 or 2. Now it greens up, but we don't get any blooms. I had been told to dig it up and put some compost and humus.
I'm going to have to interrupt you because I'm going to run out of time.
Okay, what can I do?
First thing, that's a hydrangea paniculata. It's a full sun plant. Is it getting at least 5 or 6 hours of sun?
Is it getting sun?
But I'm not positive if it's 5 or 6 hours, but it is getting at least, it seems like a half a day of sun. It's sunny right now. I'm looking out the window at it. Isn't it sunny?
We got to answer
All
quick.
right, they're gonna pull a plug on us here, but let me just say that that's usually a reliable bloomer. You need to get at least half a day's sun on there, and a lot of times they don't bloom until the end of July or August.
Sorry.